How's it going there, guys and gals? It's Trapsy here, and today we're going to be going over the one-man army herself, Sazan. I'm going to be going through some tips and tricks to help you guys learn how to most effectively utilize her to really be able to outplay and outpace your opponents and just do what we gamers love to do: wreck other people's days. A little bit of a shameless plug here. If you guys do enjoy this video, I would greatly appreciate it if you all would just give it a like, smash that subscribe button perhaps if you want to see more of my content, and if you would like to see any of my streams, you can catch me on Twitch. I will be streaming Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Link in the description down below. So anyways, get right into it. Alright, so let's start off with the pros and cons of the star of the show herself, Sazan. On the pro side, the first big one is definitely going to be her excellent DPS potential. Having that ability to weapon swap instead of reloading, having her kit revolve around that really gives you a chance to put out a lot of big numbers pretty quickly, to be honest. Especially in the early game, smart plays will definitely be rewarded because she just shreds. Good players that know when to swap weapons properly and position properly are definitely going to be rewarded, and her extremely high early game DPS capability really helps her in the farming of the world mobs, trying to get that essence to really get those first few levels, because that getting up to level 2 and 3 as quick as possible is really key in this game. You really have to get up there, and the slower you get there, the more chances you're just going to give your opponents to really get the edge on you. So having her as an early farmer is a really big advantage to you in the early game. And the mobility. She has crazy mobility. Dash life, too good, man. I don't have an exact distance for it or anything, but man, it comes in handy a lot. Trust me. Now, going over the cons, I would say perhaps one of her biggest ones is that her actual effective range is going to be kind of limited, per se. I mean, you have guns, so it's not like you're a melee character or whatever, and you got to get in close to do it or whatever. It's just, she kind of suffers, and I would say her hardest counters are people that can really get up close and personal to her. So characters like Drac or Summer, characters that their toolkit just revolves around getting in your face, give Sazan a lot of problems. So you want to be able to keep yourself at a most effective range. So ergo, close enough for your shotgun to still get maximum damage, but far enough away that if someone does try and rush you, you can get away properly. And she is also a bit on the squishier side. Definitely not as squishy as, say, like the bug or anything. Whatever his name is, I can't remember right now. No, not as squishy as that. You're still going to be a lot squishier than some of the other characters, simply because of how much DPS you can potentially output. So now for the part that you guys have all been waiting for: how to play Sazan properly and really rack up those kills. First and foremost, the biggest thing is you gotta play smart, man. You've gotta play smart. She has a huge DPS potential, and in the right hand, she's extremely dangerous. But because of that huge DPS burst that you have, when you die, it's a huge detriment to your team. Having a person down already is a pretty big detriment to your team, but having Sazan down, it hurts, man. It hurts. And if you're trying to build a group with your friends or a competitive format, if that pops up in the future, you're gonna have a team that's probably centered around, if she is on it, it will be centered around her as the main DPSer. So I guess if we were to branch over into MOBA terms a little bit, she's I would call her the ADC, basically, of the group. So having you down is extremely bad. It hurts the team, horribly so. You gotta play as smart as possible. Make sure you limit those deaths to as little as you possibly can. And then, just to reiterate, you gotta make sure you're at the right range. You want to make sure you're close enough for that shotgun, far enough away if a Summer or a Drac tries to pull you in. Well, if he pulls you in, you just dash away. But if a Drac rushes you or whatever, or Earl just flies up to you, you got to be able to make sure that you have enough distance to get away safely. Now, moving on to the essence upgrade. Starting off at level 1, you're going to be given the option of 3 different abilities. You're going to have Restorative Exchange, which is going to give you 20 health every time you swap weapons. Doesn't sound like a lot, but if you really think about like how many times you swap weapons with this character, it definitely adds up in the end, if you know what I mean. For option number 2, you're going to get Stalker's Knife, where your knife will actually track a target within a set range on impact, basically making it like a tracking dart of sorts. And your final option is going to be Taking Cover, where at completing interactions or medkits, stuff like that, you get a 5-second cloak. I think it's 5 seconds, like a 5-second cloak, basically while you're doing that activity. Now, honestly, for me, Restorative Exchange is definitely going to be the king out of that, for sure. It definitely fits the more aggressive playstyle of the character itself. So just play with what you're dealt and make sure you have the best available to you, really. Stalkers, I mean, it sounds cool in concept, but I feel like it's kind of limited in actual utility in the game's current state. Like maybe should a competitive format pop up in the future with more balancing changes and team comps and stuff like that, something could be worked with that. But for the way it is now, Restorative Exchange, definitely. And then as far as Taking Cover, you can do that. It is a viable second option, honestly. If you are not as aggressive of a player, you can do that. It also kind of can help as being like a reset button. For example, like Wraith in Apex Legends, she's got the thing where she teleports away and goes into the void or whatever. It can kind of help you just get out of a bad situation if it happens. So still viable, up to you on that one. Level 2, you get Fully Engaged, and that's where when you swap weapons, you get different abilities depending on what weapon is swapped to. So this is going to be where smart decisions really come into play. When you swap to your knife, you gain a cloak for a little bit, go invisible. It's always nice. You switch to your shotty, you get a speed boost, and when you switch to the inertia gun, it gives you 150 shields. Now, the most optimal way that I've found to do this is to try and start, honestly, most engagements with your knife. The knife's cooldown isn't that long, so you're not really going to lose out on it or anything in the fight. And to be honest, it just fits in with her toolkit really well. You can shoot or throw your knife out and then switch to the inertia gun, and now you have shields. So having that extra shields at the beginning of a fight could be really handy, especially since you don't have to reload, but your opponents may have to, so they may waste bullets trying to eat your shield up. Moving on to level 3, you're going to get 3 options again. You're going to have Capacitor Overflow, which swapping weapons will grant a 6% damage boost for 10 seconds. You will get Full Blast Shot, where the shotgun will knock the target back and is a little bit more accurate. And then you have the option, finally, of Cut and Run, where your dash will inflict 60 damage, and it basically applies a dot. And for those of you that don't know, dot is damage over time. So kind of like a poisoning effect, essentially. Obviously, based on what we've said so far, Cut and Run is just kind of it's a big no. Don't do it. Just don't. Don't do it. It's not a smart play. Not a smart play at all. You are way too squishy, and you don't have as much mobility and crowd control as, say, someone like Tosca to get away. So running up into engagements is really not going to be her style, honestly. It just doesn't fit. Bad idea. Don't do it. Then as far as Full Blast Shot, I think that one can have some really good potential in the future, depending on how balancing updates go, whether or not a competitive format is introduced, stuff like that. But in the proper team formats, like, you know, if you are like a pro team or you guys are competing and you want to be a pro team or whatever, for example, not saying that's going to happen with this game, I don't know, but we'll see. But anyway, that's a little bit different than like a pug lobby, because you're going to have a team that, you know, like everybody knows what they're doing, what their job is. Their shots are going to be on target for the most part. You know, you're playing with them on a team because they're good at the game. So in those types of like situations, I can see that having an advantage, especially comboed up. Like someone rushes you, Drak gets in your face, shotty him out, and then you can have your tank or your Drak or whatever else, your Summer, just swarm the dude, you know? There's a lot of potential. I can definitely see it having some utility, like, but in the current state with no competitive format and balancing changes soon to come, etc., stuff like that, Capacitor Overflow is king. Swap weapons, gain a damage buff. You're going to swap weapons all the time. You can pretty much keep that buff up consistently throughout the whole match. So it's just the better option here. Level 4 is go the extra mile, where you can increase the number of your dashes from 1 to 2. That's pretty self-explanatory. Your dashes are amazing. Having a second one, really good. This is going to be another one of those moments where smart players will really get rewarded with positioning, because the cooldown for the dash is only 4 seconds, I believe. Like, it's really short. So someone who really knows how to position themselves well in combat can shuffle in and out of cover into more advantageous positions, and you can pretty much do it constantly if you, like I said, play it smart. You pretty much have a dash always, and then something like that makes you harder to hit, which just makes you live longer. And when you live longer, you do more damage, you kill more things. It's a great time. Everybody's happy. Except the person you killed, obviously. They're not happy. A little addendum I guess I want to add in here that I didn't mention before is because the dash is a major part of Sazan's toolkit, obviously. A little something if you guys want to practice in the background. Practice your flicks, kind of. You're definitely going to need them. Especially if you're doing shotties out of dashes, like, unless you somehow just have godly predictive ability. I don't have it. You just turn before you do the dash and make sure you're going to hit the target. Then you're just going to have to learn to really work on them flicks, boyo. Gotta make sure them flicks are fast and accurate. And then finally for level 5, you get 2 options. Your first one being upping the voltage, where you gain 33% extra energy per weapon. It's basically increasing her ammo capacity, and your knife does 33% more damage. And then the other option being a disruptor charge, where the first shot with the inertia gun will disrupt your target's abilities for half a second. This should be pretty obvious here, to be perfectly honest. Upping the voltage is definitely the clear winner. Disruptor charge is completely outclassed by that ability. It's 33% extra ammo, 33% extra knife damage. It's great. And especially if you're in a really intense firefight, you're going to notice that her cooldowns actually overlap a little bit. Because usually, like, when I'm playing, I notice that, like, if I'm doing the straight QE right mouse cycle, so I'm going to go from inertia to shoddy to knife. After I've done the knife, of course, at the first, by the time I cycle back around to that knife, especially if it's just been, like I said, hectic, shots are going out like crazy, everybody's going nuts. A lot of times you'll still have a second or two cooldown waiting on the rifle to come back up. So having those extra bullets will pretty much prevent that from ever happening. And then more knife damage. Who doesn't love stabby stab? Duh. As far as the disruptor charge, I mean, it sounds really good in concept. I don't want to sound like I'm shitting on it, to be honest. Problem is just in the game's current state, where it's more on the casual side, there's no competitive formats yet, really. And there's ping wheel, and it's a little bit laggy. There's a bit of a lack of abilities or ways to communicate with your teammates in matches currently. There's just really no good way to coordinate that properly, short of like the stars align perfectly and you just happen to have a teammate who knew everything, man. But that doesn't happen very often, let's be real. I also find it kind of counterintuitive, honestly, to the playstyle. Having the first shot of the inertia gun disrupt abilities pretty much guarantees that you start engagements basically with the inertia gun, because you only have a half-second window. Like, it's really fast. Like, you gotta interrupt it, and you're probably interrupting something that needs to be done like now, so you can't start with the knife. But then, I mean, when you go from there, what does that do? You switch to the knife and you cloak. Like, you lose out on like the abilities that really help you in combat. So instead of getting shields, you're gonna get a speed boost or a cloak. The speed boost could be useful, I guess, depending on the situation, but cloaking, probably not so much. If you're starting a fight already, like, cloaking isn't really... That wasn't really what was planned or what you care about at that point, if you know what I mean. So yeah, upping the voltage, definitely. That's the best choice, none other. Alright, so recapping, basically play smart, use her toolkit effectively, and you guys will be able to definitely start stacking some bodies out there when you're playing out on the Crucible. And that about wraps it up. So, like I said, guys, if you did enjoy this video, please make sure to like it. Perhaps hit that subscribe button, you know, if you liked it. Definitely going to be posting more Crucible content, other gaming content as well in the future. If you have any other questions or anything that I may not have mentioned in the video, go ahead and post it down there in the comment section below. I'll get back to it, I'll read it, and I'll respond to you. And last but not least, like I said, guys, I do stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/itstravesty. I will have the link in the description down below. I'll be streaming Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. I generally try to start around 4 to 6, honestly. Like around that time. I still have a day job. I'm sorry. All right, sue me. But yeah, catch me on Twitch when I'm streaming. Check out the other socials that I have listed down there. And I hope y'all have a good day. Definitely. Now go out there and start stacking some bodies. Peace out, y'all.